It's October and I want to write my vampire book. It's also not early enough in the morning for my voice to sound like this. It's almost 11, but I have not been sleeping well, so this is the voice you get. Lucky you. It's been a bit rainy and overcast the past few days, which is perfect writing weather. It's gloomy outside again today, so what better time to work on my vampire book? Even though my vampire book is set in the middle of summer in very hot, dry conditions. It doesn't make sense necessarily, but it's still better to write in this weather. I stand by it. I'm working on book 1 in my Isla Slaine series, an urban fantasy, small town vampire, witches, shifters series. I had a title for it. I've had many titles for this book that I've been convinced will be the title when the book comes out. And yet the book has been through so many changes, because I first came up with this idea, I think in 2020. Definitely I was working on it in the first lockdown. Maybe I had an idea for it earlier, but definitely first lockdown is when I started writing it. And it has been through so many iterations since then. I've written 20,000, scrapped it, 50,000, scrapped it. And I'm up to, I think, 55,000 in the current draft, and it is the correct draft. And I had a title for it that sounds like, you know, a good title for an urban fantasy, but it's a little bit too like tongue-in-cheek or kind of, I don't know. I think it does not suit the book that has come out. So I'm trying to come up with a new title for it. I have the title for the first book in the other series, but I'm not going to tell you what that is in the Nessa series. I know what it will be called, because they will be the same world. They'll be different small towns, you know, a couple of hours apart. So it would make sense if the titles followed sort of a similar naming convention, or had the same sort of number of words or whatever. If they somehow looked like they went together, that would make sense. So maybe I'll have to brainstorm things that are like the title for the first Nessa book and see if I can come up with something that suits Isla a little bit better. I've been working on basically editing from the start, because I've had this problem the whole time, really. I've been working on this book, that I sort of have had this central idea for a long time, of why she's returning to her hometown. But I think because the main character is quite a determined person, I had not like nailed down what she would be doing when she got to the hometown. She was sort of going with the flow more than I imagined she would. I think she would be far more, you know, she would be creating the flow. She would be directing where she's going. I think Isla returned to town with a mission in mind, and then I had sort of been like, well, here's a different plot, and the mission got thrown off. And also I had a lot of plot threads that were coming in that sort of complicated the story in a good way, but it wasn't necessary to separate them all out the way I had. So I've collapsed them all. They're all kind of still there, but just in a clearer way, really, and easier to keep track of way. So now I'm going through from the beginning and sort of making those changes, which are they're not massive changes, but it does mean like I'm editing it a lot. We're not doing major rewrites or anything, but we're just, you know, everything has to be gone over to make sure it fits with the new sort of plan. So that's what I'm working on. I am first drafting, but all of my process is all drafting and all editing. And I don't have clear, here's draft 1, here's draft 2. I'm not like that. I'm like, well, let's start this. Oh, that didn't work. Let's scrap and start again. And then, oh, we'll edit that. And then, oh, I don't like that. I do like that. It's all just one big mess. And then at the end, I create a book out of it. I've got this blurred so that it won't be any spoilers, but basically these colored labels I have at the side of all of these are all different chapters of the book. These different colors indicate sort of different stages of writing or editing that all these chapters are in. Yes, there are a lot in a lot of different stages. This is the mess I'm currently in, trying to sort out this book. 54,000 words done, probably at least another 54,000 to go. It is going to be a monster. Appropriate for a vampire book. I've also been doing some reading. I've been reading vampire books. A little one you may not have heard of. I basically discovered it. It's called Dracula. I've not always been a big fan of the classics. However, this one, so far, I mean, I'm not that far in. I'm in like chapter 4, but genuinely not finding it a boring read. That's the standard I have for classics. Are they boring? This one, no. It's got lots of vibes. Good vibes. Not good vibes. Creepy vibes. Gothic vibes. But it's very fun. Fun, and like so much has happened in the first 4 chapters that I cannot imagine what is going to be in the rest of the book. So that's exciting. I've also been reading Immortal Dark by Tigist Germer. Like I mentioned in my last video, I love dark academia books about murder, where someone goes to the school or university and dedicates their time to solving a murder. I also love vampire books. Guess what Immortal Dark is? Both of those things. So I'm having a great time with it so far. It's really fun, but I'm also not very far into it because I have been reading a little bit of Dracula and reading a little bit of this at the same time. I never read just one thing at a time. I'm one of those people who sort of has 12 books on the go at once. And often at some point I'll get really into one and just slam through that to the end. But I'm quite early on in both Dracula and Immortal Dark, and I'm enjoying them both. I'm reading Dracula, and I'm up to the part where it stops being set in the castle, and instead it is very boring letters between Mina and her friend, detailing how many times she's been proposed to and what happened in excruciating detail. Nobody cares, Lucy. Take me back to Dracula, engorged with blood like a dirty leech and about to kill the main character. But at least I have made it through those letters now, and I just got up to a bit where Mina's describing graveyards and ghosts, so the vibes are back on track. In Immortal Dark, the main character's just started studying vampire philosophy, and she's pulling together her study group, and I am so invested. I'm planning to have vampire class in future Isla books, but it will be very different, a lot more informal, taught in a paddock rather than a fancy university. It is funny because really these books aren't very similar to what I'm writing at all, other than being vampire books, obviously. But I get so many ideas while I'm reading, even though the ideas aren't necessarily even related at all to what I'm reading. It really is like putting fuel in the ideas machine or turning the crank and then new things come out. I'm having a great time reading them, even if I have hit a slower part in Dracula. I think I'm through the slow bit. I hope. But I think I might even add another book into my reading rotation. Something a little lighter for when I need a break. Maybe I'll try My Roommate is a Vampire. But actually, it might just be time for more writing. My books are always at least a little funny, so that should perk me up. After all, that is what I'm here to do.